It was a warm and clear May morning in 2025 at Mar-a-Lago, when Donald Trump made a decision that would send ripples through international diplomacy and ultimately alter the course of his political legacy. Feeling confident in his ability to dominate any conversation, especially with a less experienced leader, Trump picked up the phone and personally called IBRAHIM Traoré, the young and determined president of Burkina Faso. "Ibrahim, my young friend," Trump began, his voice laced with bravado. "How about we give the world a show, a televised debate? Let's talk international issues. Let's let people see how a seasoned American president navigates complexity." Ibrahim, only 35 but a veteran of geopolitical maneuvering in his own right, was momentarily surprised by the directness of the call. He had grown used to the patronizing tone that often came from Western leaders, but never from one quite so overt. "Mr. President," Ibrahim responded calmly, "what topics do you have in mind?" Trump didn't hesitate. "Africa, trade, development, things you Africans can stand to learn from us. It'll be educational for your people to finally understand how America really works." On the other end, Ibrahim smiled faintly. The insult didn't provoke him. It revealed more than Trump likely intended. "Interesting proposal, Mr. Trump," he said smoothly. "I accept, but I propose an open format. No scripts, no prepared topics. Let the discussion unfold freely." Trump laughed heartily, mistaking confidence for naivety. "Perfect. The more off the cuff, the better. It'll be like shooting fish in a barrel. I'm going to show the world what leadership looks like." After the call, Trump turned to his team, grinning. "I'm going to humiliate this African kid on live TV. He won't know what hit him. It'll be a masterclass." Meanwhile, in Ouagadougou, President Traore wasted no time. He summoned his trusted advisor, Dr. Alonso Ouedraogo, and Intelligence Chief Major Umaru Sawadago for an emergency briefing. "Trump just handed us a golden opportunity," Ibrahim declared, eyes sharp. "For years we've gathered intelligence on the Trump Organization's shady dealings across Africa. We've never made use of that information. But now, he's challenged us in public. We will respond in kind." "What kind of information do we have exactly?" Dr. Ouedraogo asked, intrigued. "Extensive," Ibrahim replied. 3 years of data on illegal transactions, mining operations, financial corruption, and political manipulation involving his companies. This is not just a debate anymore. It's a reckoning. In a secure, classified room of the presidential palace, Major Sawadago laid out a collection of files, encrypted hard drives, and satellite images. "Mr. President," he said gravely, "we have irrefutable proof that the Trump Organization laundered over $340 million for African dictators between 2018 and 2022. Funds moved through shell companies in Seychelles, Panama, and Mauritania." Ibrahim reviewed the document silently. "And the mining operations?" "Confirmed. Trump-linked firms illegally extracted diamonds and coltan in the Congo, Mali, and Chad. These operations funded regional militias, destabilizing entire regions. Over 2,300 civilians are estimated to have died as a result." Dr. Ouedraogo added, "In 2021, Trump personally approved an operation to destabilize the civilian government in the Mayon region to secure exclusive mining contracts." "Do we have concrete evidence?" Ibrahim asked, his voice low and firm. "We do. Bank records, signed authorizations, wire transfers, even voice recordings, all verified by 3 independent agencies." In Washington, Trump, in contrast, was blissfully unaware of the avalanche coming his way. "This will be fun," he said while practicing one-liners in front of a mirror. "Watch me teach this nobody how global economics really works." His aides were uneasy. "Mr. President, Ibrahim Traoré is known for being extremely thorough. His country may be small, but he's built a reputation for strategic brilliance." Trump waved them off. "Burkina Faso? Half of America can't even find that on a map. Relax, I got this." Then came the evening of May 25th, 2025. The world watched with bated breath. CNN had orchestrated the global broadcast of the live debate, streaming it in 89 countries. Anderson Cooper was selected as moderator, lending gravitas to what was already being called the debate of the decade. Trump sat in CNN's state-of-the-art Atlanta studio, doused in stage lighting, red tie immaculate, smirking confidently. Across the world, IBRAHIM appeared via satellite from the modest but dignified presidential hall in Ouagadougou. On the table beside him sat the neatly organized folder filled with evidence that could bring down an empire. "Good evening, world," Anderson Cooper began. "Tonight, we witness a rare and historic event, a live debate between President Donald J. Trump and President IBRAHIM Traoré on global leadership, ethics, and the future of African development." Anderson turned first to Trump. "President Trump, you initiated this debate. What is your vision for Africa?" Trump leaned forward. "Simple. Africa needs to learn how the world works. Real development comes from partnering with countries like America. We have the expertise, the money, and the willpower. Africans should look to us to modernize." Anderson turned to IBRAHIM. "Your response?" IBRAHIM maintained a calm expression. "I appreciate President Trump's confidence. Africa, indeed, needs partnerships, but it must also learn from past mistakes, particularly how unethical business practices can derail progress." Trump chuckled mockingly. "IBRAHIM, you're young. You haven't been around long enough to know how deals are made. Business isn't about emotions or ethics. It's about results." IBRAHIM leaned in slightly, the calm in his voice giving way to something steelier. "Then let's discuss results, Mr. Trump. Should we begin with the $340 million your company's funneled through Mauritanian banks to support regimes known for war crimes, or the illegal coltan mines in Congo, where your affiliates paid militias to control supply chains?" Trump's smile faltered. IBRAHIM continued, pulling out a document. "Or perhaps you'd like to address this signed authorization from you approving a destabilization operation in Mayon in 2021, which cost over 2,000 civilian lives." The studio went silent. Anderson Cooper blinked, visibly stunned. "Do you have proof of these allegations, President Traoré?" IBRAHIM held up the folder. "Bank statements, contracts, satellite imagery, voice recordings, verified by 3 independent agencies." "Would you like me to read excerpts?" Trump interrupted. "This is nonsense. Lies." "Then, perhaps," IBRAHIM said softly, "you won't mind if I submit this file to the International Criminal Court after our debate." The global audience erupted on social media. Hashtags like #CheckTrumpExposed and #TraoreTruth trended within minutes. The world had come expecting a verbal sparring match. What they got was an international bombshell. And IBRAHIM Traoré? He didn't just win a debate. He reshaped the global conversation on African sovereignty, accountability, and the true cost of unchecked power. And Trump? For the first time in his long public life, he was speechless. Winning. "An interesting perspective," IBRAHIM said calmly, folding his hands with composure. "Especially coming from someone who considers winning to include illegal operations across Africa." The room fell into sudden silence. Trump, who had been laughing smugly just seconds earlier, froze. The smirk disappeared from his face, replaced by a confused frown. "What are you talking about?" he asked, his voice suddenly sharp and defensive. "I'm talking about the Trump Organization," IBRAHIM replied, his tone still calm but unmistakably firm. "And its covert activities across the African continent, operations you clearly believed would never come to light." With that, IBRAHIM lightly tapped a thick folder resting beside him on the desk. Anderson Cooper, moderating the live debate, immediately picked up on the change in atmosphere. The energy had shifted. The power dynamic flipped. "President Traoré?" Anderson interjected cautiously. "Are you referring to specific allegations?" "I'm not alleging anything. Ibrahim corrected him, his voice steady. I am presenting specific evidence. He opened the folder slowly and deliberately. Mr. Trump, would you care to explain Operation African Diamond, launched in 2021? Trump's face drained of color as if someone had pulled a plug from his confidence. His body tensed, his breathing quickened. That name, African Diamond, was never supposed to be spoken in public. It was a code name for a highly classified mining operation he believed was buried deep within the vaults of his inner circle. I don't know what you're talking about, Trump stammered, visibly rattled, his usual bravado now absent. Ibrahim tilted his head slightly and held up a document toward the camera. This is a memorandum, he said, bearing your signature, dated March 15, 2021. It authorizes a payment of $23 million to armed militias in Mali for the purpose of securing illegal diamond mining zones. That's a fake document, Trump snapped, leaping from his chair, eyes wide with alarm. It's been authenticated by 3 independent intelligence agencies, Ibrahim responded without raising his voice, including the FBI, though curiously they never followed through with an investigation into your African dealings. Anderson Cooper was visibly stunned. President Traore, are you accusing former President Trump of funding militias? I'm not accusing, Ibrahim replied. I am presenting verified evidence. Operation African Diamond directly led to the deaths of 2,300 civilians in Mali between 2021 and 2022. Collateral damage for the Trump organization's illegal acquisition of mineral wealth? The screen behind Ibrahim flashed a series of gut-wrenching images. Scorched villages reduced to ash, families mourning their dead, children wandering alone through the rubble, orphans of a hidden war driven by greed. The audience gasped. The weight of the visuals was unbearable. Every one of these lives, Ibrahim said, his voice now edged with quiet fury, had a name, a story, a future. And every one of them was sacrificed so your corporation could secure profits. Mr. Trump, this blood is on your hands. Trump was now visibly panicked. This is an orchestrated smear campaign, he shouted, pointing across the stage. By whom? Ibrahim asked gently. By the families you've orphaned? By the governments destabilized by your greed? Or perhaps by the rivers poisoned, the land scorched, the voices silenced? You have no right to impeach me, Trump bellowed, sweat beading on his brow. I don't seek to impeach you, Ibrahim said, his tone sharpened with righteous conviction. I have the right to defend my continent from men who come dressed as businessmen but act as predators. I have the duty to speak for those who can't. You parade as a leader, Mr. Trump, yet you've financed terrorism. Then Ibrahim dropped another bombshell. And Operation African Diamond, he continued, is merely one of dozens we have documented. Would you prefer I continue? Trump stood paralyzed. His silence spoke louder than words. The trap had closed, and he realized, too late, that he had walked right into it. Ibrahim reached into his briefcase and pulled out another file. Since you deny African Diamond, he said, turning the page, let's discuss Operation Congo. Red! No! Trump snapped, his voice cracking with panic. I refuse to continue this interrogation. Mr. Trump, Anderson Cooper reminded him, you agreed to an open format debate. President Traore is presenting grave allegations that deserve a response. Ibrahim opened the next file. Congo Red, he began, involved $67 million laundered through Trump Organization shell companies to fund the illegal extraction of coltan, a mineral used in nearly every smartphone and laptop. This operation displaced over 45,000 Congolese families, destroyed 12 villages, and contaminated major rivers with mercury. Photos and satellite images filled the screen, displaced people in makeshift camps, dead fish floating in toxic water, children collecting water from chemical-tainted streams. All, Ibrahim added coldly, so the Trump Organization could control 40% of the region's illegal coltan supply. Trump stammered, trying to assemble a defense. I never authorized any of this. Your signature is on every contract, Ibrahim replied, unshaken. Your voice is on the recorded phone calls approving the transactions. Your bank accounts received profits. Here are records from Bank of America, Deutsche Bank, and Credit Suisse, each showing millions in transfers from accounts tied directly to militia-controlled mining fields. Trump was now visibly shaking. "This is an international conspiracy against me," he shouted. "Conspiracy?" Ibrahim repeated, almost laughing. "Mr. Trump, you documented your own crimes. You recorded conversations. You signed contracts. You wired the money. No one needs to conspire when you've left behind a breadcrumb trail of your own greed." Then Ibrahim delivered the final blow. "The most damning evidence," he said, voice dropping to a solemn tone, "is a 47-minute audio recording, verified by forensic voice analysts, of you personally ordering the assassination of a community leader in Chad who had been blocking one of your mining deals." "That's a lie!" Trump screamed, but his voice trembled. His eyes darted. His posture collapsed into desperation. "We can play it right now if you'd like," Ibrahim offered, holding up a flash drive. Trump said nothing. His silence echoed like thunder across the stage. He realized, in that moment, that he was no longer in control. IBRAHIM TRAORÉ, the young African leader he had underestimated, had not only turned the tables, he had burned them to ash. "You Africans are trying to blackmail me," Trump shouted, his voice shrill, a shadow of its former self. Ibrahim leaned forward, his voice steady, chilling in its restraint. "Mr. Trump," he said, "blackmail is when someone demands something in exchange for silence. I am demanding nothing. I want everything to be heard." Ibrahim stood calmly, unwavering in the face of one of the most powerful men on the planet. "I am exposing crimes, Mr. Trump," he said clearly, his voice firm but steady. "Why do you think I agreed to this debate? You thought it was the usual American arrogance, a chance to humiliate an African leader on live television, but I saw something else entirely. I saw the perfect opportunity to reveal the truth and deliver justice." Anderson Cooper, now visibly stunned, but still trying to maintain journalistic composure, turned toward Trump. "President Trump, these are incredibly serious allegations. Do you wish to respond to them specifically?" Trump's face twisted in frustration. "I don't have to answer anything," he snapped. "I am the President of the United States. And I am the President of the continent your operations have tried to exploit and destroy," Ibrahim fired back, his tone growing sharper. "That gives me not only the moral right, but the duty to expose your crimes against my people." He then slowly pulled out a large photo and held it up for the cameras. The image sent a visible shiver down Trump's spine. It showed him shaking hands with a notorious African warlord, Khan Matsuda. The caption read, "Secret Meeting, N'Djamena, Chad, October 2020. This photograph was taken during a covert meeting where you offered $50 million in exchange for protection for your mining operations in Chad," Ibrahim said evenly. Trump leaned forward, his voice a terrified whisper. "How did you get that photo?" "Khan Matsuda," Ibrahim replied with an icy smile, "has been cooperating with us for over 3 years. Every meeting, every transaction, every crime, documented, archived, and now exposed. You thought Africa was your personal playground, but we were watching your every move." Trump tried to rise, his instinct to escape overwhelming. But then he realized it was all being broadcast live to the entire world. There was nowhere to run. "You can't leave now, Mr. Trump," Ibrahim said, his voice gentle but firm. "The world is watching. What kind of leader runs when confronted with the truth?" Trump sank back into his seat, trapped, humiliated, and cornered. But Ibrahim wasn't done. "There's one more revelation," he said, producing another folder. "Something that explains why none of this has ever been investigated in the United States." Trump's face turned ghostly white. "We have discovered that you shared profits from your African operations with high-ranking American officials to buy silence and legal protection," Ibrahim revealed. The room fell into stunned silence. Even Anderson Cooper was momentarily speechless. "Here is the list," Ibrahim continued, holding up a document. 2 sitting U.S. senators, 1 federal judge, and 3 FBI officials received payments. Senator Richard Burton received $12 million via a fake humanitarian foundation. Judge William Hayes accepted $8 million in fictitious venture capital. FBI Deputy Director Michael Ross took $5 million in so-called consulting fees. All traceable, all documented, all criminal. Cooper, regaining his composure, turned to Ibrahim. "President Traore, are you saying the American justice system was corrupted to cover up crimes committed abroad?" "I'm not saying it," Ibrahim corrected. "I am proving it. These bank transfers, these signatures, these recordings, they speak for themselves. The Trump Organization didn't just commit atrocities in Africa. It corrupted American institutions to ensure impunity." Trump was now openly weeping, reduced to a shadow of the man who had once commanded global headlines. Please stop," he whispered, pleading. Ibrahim's face turned solemn, his voice thick with righteous anger. "You want me to stop? Tell that to the 2,300 families in Mali who lost loved ones. Tell that to the 45,000 people in Congo forced from their homes. Tell it to the children poisoned by mercury in rivers you polluted, all for your profit. You committed genocide for minerals and masked it as business." Looking straight into the camera, Ibrahim declared, "The world must know, not all leaders wear suits to serve the people. Some wear them to disguise their criminality. Africa is not a colony. It is not a resource farm for Western predators. And young African leaders will no longer remain silent." Trump had stopped defending himself. He had stopped speaking. The silence spoke louder than any denial could. He had been publicly and irrevocably defeated by the man he underestimated. "Thank you for this debate, Mr. Trump," Ibrahim concluded, standing tall. "You have given me the platform to expose you, not just to America, but to the world." In the hours that followed, the world reeled. Social media erupted, hashtags like Track or Trump Crimes and Justice by Ibrahim trending worldwide. Analysts on CNN and the BBC called it the most devastating political takedown in modern history. Inside the White House, chaos reigned. Trump had locked himself in the Oval Office, refusing to speak to anyone. The vice president scrambled to assume control. The chief of staff paced in panic. "We need a statement now," he insisted. "The president is in no state to speak," replied a senior advisor. "He's collapsed into complete psychological shock." Congress convened an emergency session. The evidence presented demands a full investigation and immediate impeachment proceedings, said the Speaker of the House. If true, these are crimes against humanity. The FBI launched a formal investigation. Behind closed doors, the director admitted, "These documents appear authentic. If verified, multiple arrests will follow, including some within our own agency." Across Africa, a fire had been lit. The African Union unanimously called for an international tribunal to try Trump and his collaborators for war crimes. "Africa United demands justice," declared the AU chairman. Global financial markets plunged, rocked by America's political instability and the credibility collapse of its leadership. Ibrahim Traoré had not just exposed one man, he had shaken the global order. And in doing so, he had reminded the world, justice knows no borders, and truth, when spoken with courage, can bring down even the mightiest of empires. The global fallout from President Ibrahim Traoré's explosive revelations against Donald Trump continued to reverberate across every corner of the international community. Unprecedented, declared the Wall Street Journal as markets plunged in real time. Investors were fleeing American assets in a full-blown panic, creating a financial tailspin not seen since the Great Depression. U.S. credibility had crumbled under the weight of the truth. NATO convened an emergency summit, its members visibly shaken. "How can we trust an ally whose leader has been credibly accused of war crimes?" asked the French president bluntly. The alliance was in existential crisis. Ironically, nations Trump had once mocked or attacked were now standing in solidarity with President Ibrahim. Vladimir Putin issued a rare public commendation. President Traore showed unmatched courage by revealing this conspiracy. Russia guarantees his protection from retaliation. China echoed the sentiment. "Courageous leaders deserve international security," said a top official. In less than a week, Ibrahim had gone from being a relatively unknown African head of state to a global icon of justice. Trump, by contrast, had become a disgraced symbol of unchecked greed, corruption, and moral bankruptcy. The U.S. political machine moved faster than anyone anticipated. Impeachment proceedings were launched and passed with lightning speed. The vote was nearly unanimous, a moment of rare bipartisan unity. "The evidence is overwhelming," said the Republican Senate leader. "We cannot, in good conscience, defend crimes against humanity." The FBI acted next, arresting over a dozen high-ranking officials named in Ibrahim's documentation. Among them, a powerful senator, a federal judge, and a top FBI deputy. The Justice Department officially confirmed the launch of Operation Cleanup, based entirely on evidence provided by President Traore. Meanwhile, the Trump Organization collapsed overnight. Major banks revoked credit lines and longtime business allies publicly severed ties. Assets were frozen or seized, many earmarked for reparations to African nations. "The largest political and financial implosion in American history," reported Forbes. African governments wasted no time. A coalition of 26 nations filed a historic joint lawsuit seeking over $1 trillion in reparations for the damage caused by Trump-backed operations. "He owes every displaced family, every community, ravaged by violence," said the lead attorney representing the victims. The humiliation only deepened for Trump as his own family began disowning him. Eric Trump released a stark statement. "We categorically condemn these actions and will no longer be associated with our father." Melania Trump filed for divorce almost immediately. "I was unaware of the scale of his crimes," she said in a primetime interview. "President Traore opened my eyes to the monster I married." Attempting to escape the growing storm, Trump tried to board a private jet to a country without an extradition treaty. But federal agents intervened. A judge revoked his passport. "He is an extreme flight risk with international liabilities," the ruling read. As Trump fell, Ibrahim soared. The world hailed Ibrahim Traoré not just as a leader but as a legend. Archbishop Desmond Tutu called his actions exceptional moral heroism. The Nobel Peace Prize Committee took the unprecedented step of creating a new category: Special Award for Justice in Global Leadership. 1 month after the historic debate that shocked the world, Trump was indicted on 347 federal counts, including conspiracy, crimes against humanity, and global racketeering. International tribunals, led by The Hague, announced extradition protocols. "He hunted innocent lives for profit," said the chief prosecutor. "Now he will be hunted by justice." In a televised interview, Ibrahim reflected, "Sometimes predators forget that prey can fight back. We did, and we won." A full year later, the transformation was undeniable. Trump was serving life in a maximum security prison. The man once considered the most powerful figure on earth was now reduced to a number behind bars. President Ibrahim Traore had become the most respected figure in international politics. Addressing the UN General Assembly in Geneva, he stood before delegates from 193 nations. A year ago, we learned the most powerful country in the world was being led by a war criminal. Today, we have proven that justice knows no borders, and power does not equal immunity. The chamber erupted in thunderous applause. Many African delegates wept openly, finally witnessing justice for centuries of exploitation. The Trump trial had set a global precedent. Even the mightiest could be held accountable. Ibrahim continued, "The era of impunity is over. The International Criminal Tribunal now has global jurisdiction, thanks to the Traore resolution." In America, a new president had been elected, one who promised radical transparency and systemic reform. In their inaugural address, the new leader stated, "President Traore didn't just expose a criminal, he saved the soul of American democracy. We owe him our eternal gratitude." Africa, too, was transformed. No longer seen as a resource pit or puppet continent, it emerged as an equal global power. "Africa is no longer a playground for Western predators," declared the African Union president. "We are partners. We are protectors of justice." President Traore founded the Traore Institute for International Justice, dedicated to training young leaders in legal and ethical governance. At the opening ceremony, he declared, "Never again will powerful men commit crimes against the innocent and walk away." In a final reflection, Ibrahim said, "Trump thought Africa was weak. He thought our youth were naive. But justice has no age limit. Truth is the most powerful weapon. Arrogance gave him a microphone. Courage gave me the strength to speak. And history has recorded our victory." Indeed, the young African leader Trump tried to silence had become the architect of a new global order, one defined not by fear or greed, but by justice, dignity, and truth.